Welcome to JFix and a new tools video. I've got lots of goodies from AliExpress over on my bench to show you, so let's get straight into it. So I've received a really big order from AliExpress, too much to show in one video, so I've already grouped the items together in my previous video, which was for like GPUs and motherboard repairs, things like that, so be sure to check out that one if you haven't already seen it. But yes, I've got all of these items as well that I'm going to include in this video to show you all of the extra things that I've got on the desk here. So I've tried to pick up quite a few interesting items and some things that I haven't seen other people using before, and also AliExpress reached out to me and kindly said that they would also supply a couple of items for me. So two of the items on the desk have been kindly provided by AliExpress, so thank you very much, I appreciate that. And that is this one here and this plate in there. So I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll move them all out the way and we'll go through them individually one by one, and let's have a bit of fun having a look at some of these items. So first up, I wanted to show you these sponge pads. I was just going to show you how big the package was that got sent to me. I think I might have accidentally ordered the wrong quantity, but I managed to split the bag as I'm opening it. So we've got so many of these things now on the desk. So let me just sort this out and then I'll show you that properly. Right, now I've cleared that mess away, let me show you these little sponges. So I think people refer to these as like magic erasers or melamine sponges, something like that. And I watch a lot of YouTube repair videos and live streams, and recently I've been watching Luke at Retro6, and this is something that he always uses. I always see him using, and he uses it for cleaning flux off the board, and it seems to be super effective. So why not copy him and, you know, try it myself? So I bought these and I don't know how effective they're going to be for me, but certainly we can give them a go. And, you know, in future videos I'm going to be trying to use these to clean up flux off the board, especially, you know, big areas where you've been working. And I think they are kind of like slightly abrasive, so not enough to damage anything like the PCB, but I do think that they're apparently good for cleaning. I've also seen them over on Chill and Relax on his stream. He uses them as well. Now, they don't last forever if you've got through hole components and, you know, the legs poking out as you're going to clean with them. It will break up the sponge on there, but apparently he also says it does a fantastic job of cleaning. So why not jump on this bandwagon and give that a go myself. Second up on the list, we have this AMOAE repair pad. Now, this is the one that was gifted to me by AliExpress. So, as I say, I appreciate that. Now, I do want to get into myself building up a collection of stencils for BGA, soldering paste, and basically getting in to be able to do the BGA repairs. I know AMOAE is a brand. As you can see here, that's what they look like. AMOAE is a really good brand for the stencils and things for BGA. They make some fantastic equipment. So when I seen this also by AMOAE, I thought, yeah, maybe this is worth checking out because I've not seen anybody use this before. So this is the AMOAE M81 repair pad. And I think that this is going to be something that I can place down on my work surface here. If I'm doing a messy job with soldering paste and all things like that, I'm going to just give an extra layer of protection to my ESD mat that I've got here. Now, my ESD mat isn't completely flat. As you can see, it's got these hexagons and these grooves and things like that, so it is a little bit annoying to clean once it gets messy, because you've got to try and clean in all these grooves. So having a surface like this, I'm sure this will be really easy to clean. And I don't know what this is made of, but it seems to be some kind of like stone material with some rubber feet on here. It seems like very rigid on here, and yeah, it feels nice quality, so it just seems to be the right size for, you know, reballing, and I'm guessing being AMOAE, that's what it's designed for. So I'm quite happy to pick that up, and that will just be able to slide nicely and keep at the side of my desk. So any messy work I'm doing, I'm going to start to use this repair pad, give it a go. Another thing that I might be interested to try with this is how it reacts to the heat as well, because what I've been doing at the moment, if I'm doing a motherboard and changing a component, I've had the motherboard resting on here using the hot air, and what I've found is that the heat mat being really thick, this one, it kind of absorbs all the heat. A lot of heat goes into the mat, probably rather than being into the board itself. So maybe having the board on here while I heat it up, it's going to stop some of that heat transfer from the board into the mat, and maybe it will help to heat up the boards quicker. I don't know. So interesting to try that one in future videos. I'm just going to get these little things out of the way first, because I've actually made a mistake ordering these. Let me zoom in and show you. Now, recently in a video I featured this little jumper wire that I picked up, and this is 0.1 millimeters on here, which I thought was tiny and would be great for like trace repairs and things. Now, as it stands, it is fine for doing like little jumpers, but 0.1 is actually quite big when it comes to traces, so I needed some smaller wire than 0.1. And I know Andy at Swindon Electronic Repairs, he recommended 0.06 millimeter wires. That's what he used to do his trace repairs. So I was also looking for some 0.06, and the closest I could find was 0.05, 0.08, and I've also got 0.03. However, I thought these were jumper wires and they're not. As you can see here, this is actually called screen separation cutting wire. So I think these are actually designed as like a cheese wire for getting glass off the screen. You put it in and then, you know, gently work it down. So these are not actually jumper wires. Whether or not they will work as a jumper wire, that's not really what they're designed for. So yeah, I've made a bit of a flop on that one. So I thought I'll just put them to the side and move on very quickly. And if you have got any recommendations for jumper wire and you can give me a link, please let me know, because yeah, I still need some. So this little box, it says it's a solder tip storage and it's by Mechanic. I've got a lot of Mechanic things and I quite enjoy using them. So this is something simple, solder tip storage R16, and it's just like a solid metal block, and it's supposed to be for storing your tips. So on my soldering iron, I do have a place like at the back here where I can put some tips in here. Problem is, this is so pushed back right to the back of the desk, because I don't like all the wires and stuff hanging out and having it quite close. So they're not very useful to reach at the back. So what I've ended up doing is just putting them in this little tin, which is fine. As you can see here, here's my soldering iron tips in the tin. But I thought, when I seen this one and it was quite cheap as well, maybe let's try something actually designed for the job. Now, it's probably not for these really tiny 115 bits, it's probably more designed for these, but we should just be able to put them all in like this. Let's give it a go. Actually, I quite like that. It makes them all really easy to see when you grab a tip. And I still am using quite low quality tips. I will be getting some JBC ones, so hopefully having the JBC ones in here will look after them nicely and protect them, stop them getting knocked around. And as I say, the main reason why I wanted this is that I can just have this, you know, off to the side of my desk up here and just grab one when I need it, and I'll be able to see it rather than having them right at the back of my desk. Now, every time I order stuff from AliExpress, I always seem to end up picking up some more tweezers, because, yeah, I love tweezers. You can never have too many, and there's so many different types and brands. I like to try them all and compare them and see, you know, which ones are best. So I've not seen anybody with these ones yet. These are the ones by Tool, and I do have some more parts that I've got from Tool, and they've all been quite good so far. So let's give these ones a go. These are the Tool K-type tweezers, and these are not metal. These are ceramic tweezers at the end on here. I do like the blacked out look on these ones with the black ends. I do have some more ceramic tweezers. These ones were the Real Life ones that I got some time ago, and they're also quite nice. And I think, to be honest with you, they are a very, very similar tweezer if you look at them. Very similar in design. Now, someone did say in one of the comments of my video that you've got to be careful with the ceramic tweezers because they are brittle. If you drop them, you can, you know, splinter and fracture these. But yeah, I'm thinking that these will be quite useful for reballing as well. Now, I don't know if anybody else out there uses the ceramic tweezers, but what I'm thinking that they might be good for is because I wanted to get into the reballing, if I've got my jig here and I'm doing a direct heat stencil, I know you do need to like sometimes hold down and keep the pressure as you heat up the stencil. And if you're using metal tweezers, as you're heating it up and you're heating the tweezers up, that heat is going to be transferred through the tweezer because it's fully metal and obviously burn your hand because I don't wear gloves. So I'm thinking that being ceramic, it might not transfer up the handle. So I'm not sure if that's the case. Maybe you know. But yeah, either way, I'm going to try and put these ones to good use. Alright, the next thing I've got on my list is this. And this is a UV lamp. And it is quite bright. Shield your eyes now. That's cool. And as you can see, it's got like an indicator light in here and a little charging port in here, of course USB-C. Now, a couple of reasons why I've got this one. I've already got the mechanic UV curing light, which this is one that's kind of like slightly angled up. So you place it on the motherboard and you set your light like this, and it just sits, you know, nicely above the area that you've put your UV mask and cures it. So the problem with this thing is it only lasts for 30 seconds, which is probably fine for curing the UV mask, but after you've cured it for 30 seconds, it has a bit of a cool down as well before it will, like a safety thing, before it will come back on. So it can be a bit annoying. Now this one obviously is a torch. You just switch it on and it's going to stay on for as long as you leave it on. Now, the reason I picked up this lamp is because, as well as those sponges, Luke at Retro 6 also uses this kind of thing all the time for inspecting the boards as well. So having it with a light that you can keep on all the time means I can inspect the boards to see if there's any flux on there. And as you can see, look, as I shine around on my pad here, you can see, you know, little defects and things like that. Look at that, look where the glue is. Don't know if you can see that. Zoom you in a bit closer. So look at this, look, as an inspection thing, it reveals all the gremlins. What he said on the stream, which I didn't actually realise, is when you look at the flux, like this one, this is just a fake Amtex one or something, but it's NC559 ASM UV. And the UV means that it's actually got like a bit of ultraviolet dye in there. So when you put the flux on your board and then you shine over your light, it does glow, so you can see if you've missed anything when you're cleaning. You'll be able to see that because I don't know if I'll be able to show you. Let me just, there you go, look how much it glows up. Look, can you see that in the bottle compared to the normal look? So yeah, the idea is once you've got flux on your board, you can go over with the torch and you'll be able to see if there's any of this, especially if you've got this UV flux on there. So I thought that was a neat little party trick and I just wanted to try that for myself. Okay, next up is these little clamp things that I've picked up to have a go with. Now, let me zoom you in again. I've got two different types of clamp here. I do already have like these types of clamps, which are great for clamping the PCBs. I really like this mechanic one that I've got, but I haven't got any of this type. So what this consists of is a metal base, and then these things, they're actually quite tough to get off, these magnets. And as you can see, they stick onto this base on here. Let me just take these off. And this one. So they're both like a solid piece of metal with a bit of foam. This has got some foam pads for the legs, and this is a solid foam. And yeah, they'll sit down there, and this will allow you with various different ways to clamp things. So on this yellow one, it came included with these ones, and these like spring down like this. It's got a solid magnet there, and you just pull down on the magnet and you clamp your wire in between there like this. So if we're working on a PCB, I'm guessing we can just clamp them on like that and then solder it, rather than, you know, if I wanted to change a port on a really small board like this, maybe this would be more ideal than like trying to get the board off the edge of the desk. And if we wanted to, we can come in with a second one as well to make it really secure. In fact, that's quite good. Yeah, so that's going to clamp that board really nicely. And the good thing is, because these are magnetic on a base, we can actually put them either anywhere we want on the board, any position that suits the board better. So something like that. I do have plans to buy the PC bike kit, but it's a little bit out of my budget at the moment, so I thought for now let's try something, you know, just cheap from AliExpress and see how these things work. And you've also got these little crocodile clips as well that can go on, so maybe they are good, like to solder a wire, hold a wire. So yeah, I picked up these selection of wires because I already have a lot of these things, but these ones are made of like the nice soft silicone, so similar to, like, you know, more silicone multimeter leads compared to like a normal one like this. Yeah, recently I had a slight issue because I was just using this programmer on here and I was soldering one end to a motherboard, and you know, there's not much flexibility in this lead. It's quite stiff because it's not very flexible, as you can see. As I move around, you know, the wire doesn't like to move with it because it's not flexible, and it's soldered onto a tiny point on the motherboard, a little test point, and it managed to rip off the pad when I did that because, as I say, look at that lot. It's just not very flexible. These are like a cheap plasticky coating on there. So the idea behind these ones is they're going to be a lot more flexible, so as I'm moving this program around, it hopefully doesn't put as much stress on here, and they just feel like a better, nicer quality. So thought we would give them a try. Now I have got some more projects where I want to show how to program some of the more complex ICs in a laptop, so I did need some extra ones of these cables as well that I can cut the end off, because I need some very tiny connections on there. So if I cut them down, I can add some little tails on there where I can solder directly to the motherboard as well, because, you know, things like these little prongs that you get on the end are too big for what I need to solder to. So yeah, I'm going to chop them down, and at least I've got some extra cables that I can sacrifice now as well to do some of the jobs that I want to do. Yeah, back to this little clips anyway. What I wanted to show you is we can get a cable in there and we can use that for like soldering and things like that. Let me show you. In fact, if we wanted to solder two wires together, I can put them both in, and then I can go up and down, and I can get this into the perfect position here. And so they're touching, and there's like a bit of flex in these, so you can twist them and go up and down, and now I'd be able to solder those two wires together. Now this one's quite an interesting little probe on here, and the idea of this is that it can put pressure down. Yeah, it's quite a strong magnet, that one is. So the idea of this is that you can adjust this little screw on here, going up and down, to adjust the pressure on this needle to push down on an IC if you're going to solder it. So in the example I've seen, they're going to be doing a large QFN chip. So we're all familiar with the EC chip, an embedded controller that, you know, quite often you might need to replace this one because you've blown it up, or, you know, it's got a problem, or you might need to program it and take it out of circuit. So soldering a large chip like this is something that's quite difficult for me, so I'm going to try a few different methods to see which one works best for me. But if I'm going to solder it without soldering the pads first, my idea is we can use something like this type of probe on here to sit in the middle of the chip, and it will provide pressure on the chip down there, so it doesn't, once I've got the pins aligned, it doesn't move out of position. So who knows how well that's going to work, but that will be coming up on another video, and we'll be having some fun trying a few different methods to see which one works best for me for soldering the EC chip. Right, let's keep moving on. So we've got this little stone thing in this case here. Let me show you that. So this is a little grinding stone abrasive on here. As you can see, it's just a flat stone, and the idea with this is that it's for repairing your damaged tweezers. So if your tweezers get damaged and the tips are no longer sharp, or they're, you know, got some defect on them, you might be able to use this grinding stone to bring them back to life. Now, unfortunately, my tweezers, I've tried to keep them all in good condition, so they're all right, but it's got this groove in the middle here, so I'm assuming you will just like do something like this type of action and, you know, try and let's have a look. It will just remove some material and try and sharpen your tweezers. So yeah, maybe that will be useful to have. If we get some damaged tweezers, I'll be sure to give that a go and try it. But a grinding stone like that might be useful for anything really, so I'll just keep it. It's small and it was cheap. Hopefully I don't damage any tweezers, but you know, it's always going to happen, so I'll keep that on my desk next to where all my tweezers go. Next up, we have this tiny little USB board. I might have to show you under the microscope because it's a bit small. Yeah, so this is a tiny USB board, and there's a reason why I've bought that. So let me just show you why I've bought this one. So here I have my little USB radio, the DIY kit that I built, and what it did is it came with a micro USB on there, and I like to have everything USB-C. So I fitted this little charging port here, and you can see I've got ground and V connected to there with some little jumper wires, and yeah, that's working, and that's charging the board via the USB connection. Now, one thing I didn't think about when I was fitting this board is that, yes, even though it is a USB-C, not all devices will charge using this. So Symboltech pointed this out to me because I did overlook it. But I am aware already that if you've got a USB-C port on here, USB-C, if it's a power delivery device, like a USB-C to USB-C cable, it's normally off, the port is. Now, as you can see, in my meter in the corner here, I have 5 volts on there. So my actual Furnace FNB58 that I use to get that on screen automatically switches the PD on. So as you can see, I've always got 5 volt, but that's not the case if you're just going to plug it into a standard charger on the wall outlet. You won't have 5 volt. You need the USB-C to negotiate that charge with a PD controller chip, or you could use the pull-up resistors on the CC line, so it will trigger the 5 volts as well, doing it that way. Now, I was thinking to add the resistors to the CC line to pull it to ground. However, as you can see, there's not really any traces or any easy way that I can solder the resistors on this little board here. So ideally what you need is a USB-C trigger board so you can trigger the 5 volt all the time. Now, I do have one that I picked up previously, and as you can see, it's a bit large. That's the problem. It's got to fit between these capacitors here, and as you can see, that's far too large to mount onto the board. But the idea with this one is that it's got a little IC on here and a little DIL switches here where you can set the settings. So if we look at the settings, and you can see the DIL switch where you need to put them for the positions for switch 1, 2 and 3. So you can trigger 5 volt, 9 volt, 12 volt, 15 or 20 using this board. So this one is just a 5 volt device, and I would just trigger 5 volt. Now, as I say, you don't need the PD controller in there for 5 volts if you can just solder those 2 pull-up resistors, pull down resistors to ground on the CC lines. But as I say, it just doesn't have space for that. So I did actually find this one, and look at the size of it. Compared to this PD trigger, this is absolutely tiny. Now this one is quite good if you're just testing devices and you want to quickly flick the switches on here, because you can do that. This doesn't have that ability, but the size of it is amazing. So check this out. That's definitely going to fit. It's almost the same size, if not even smaller than that one on there. So I'm really pleased about that. So here it is. It's a DYKB radio, and you can see the little IC on there. Now to switch the voltage on this one, if we flip it over, it just has some little pads to short out on here. So by default this will automatically trigger the 5 volt, so I actually don't need to take any action at all on this. Now you can get 2 different versions of this board. You can get this version where it does these voltages, or you can get another version where it does the higher voltages on here. So as you can see, the pads are next to the 15, 12 and 9 on this board. So you know, this is the smaller one. I think it should have probably a tick in there to show that it's these ones. So as I say, the difference with this is I can plug this in and it's going to trigger the 5 volt automatically. But let's just test it out. So as I say, my amp meter has already triggered the 5 volts, so we're not really going to see anything on there. But if you had a normal charger, this would be triggering 5 volts. But let's plug it in, and as you see, we've got a little LED on there. You can see the current very slightly change in the corner. So let's try triggering these voltages with the tweezers. So yeah, check in the corner, we'll try 9 volts. Let's just short the pads out. Here we go. Obviously you would solder them if you're going to use them permanently, but there you go. See in the corner, we've got 9 volts now. If my tweezers don't slip off, 9 volts. And again, we can try like 12 volts and trigger it. And there, in the top corner, we've got 12 volts. So yeah, next time I do a live stream, we'll get this little board soldered on and remove this one. And you can see closer up on the microscope here. This one is basically just a dumb 5 volts from there, but it's got to be on from a USB-A port, as I said. We've got 2 terminals here that we can easily solder these little jumpers to. So I think that's going to work beautifully. So quite happy with this little board. And also it's nice that it has the little LED, so that's going to light up here to show that the USB charger is connected successfully. And one thing, this is not for data. This one does have the 2 data lines, but we're only interested in charging on this board, and that's the sole purpose of this type of board, is for charging or powering up a device. Now I've saved the thing that I'm most excited to give a go last on the list, which is this mechanic glue dispenser. This is the one that AliExpress sent me, so I'm really chuffed to get this one, and we're going to give this definitely a go now. Now when it comes to dispensing flux, when you buy a flux tube, it just comes with something like that, the plastic handle and a little plunger thing that you can put in and out there, which, you know, bit cheap, this plastic handle. So then you end up upgrading and you put something like this mechanic one in there, which gives you a nice aluminium one, and you use that. But I say it's not really at the place that you would use it. It's right up here, so you've got to, like, especially when you're in YouTube, you right up here, you've got to try and hold your thumb, or you know, go further up the tube and then, you know, try and dispense it. But it's not very accurate when you're trying to do it, so yeah, I don't think it's very ergonomic, but very simple, and it works perfectly well. So then my idea was to get one of these. Now this is a glue dispenser, so it's pneumatic and it pushes the air down in here and dispenses it out. But what I didn't realise is that it only takes these bigger types of tubes when I got it. So you can see here the size difference between the 2 tubes. This is much bigger, the one that holds the glue, and that is all that this one can take. So it does work well, and actually this glue is really good, but yeah, it wasn't fit for purpose for what I originally bought and intended it for. So the mechanic have just released this one, and looking at the description on it, this might actually work and give me something better. So we're going to try this now together. Right, so we're unboxed, and this thing consists of 3 parts. So we've got here PD10 mechanic, we've got the main pneumatic dispenser part, we've also got our springy handle, and we have an adapter. So by default, this mechanic one will use the same of these like big buffer glue things, and we can rotate it in there and use these huge tubes. But the mechanic one also comes with this reducer here, so we can reduce the size down and use the smaller flux tubes. So let's give that a go. I'm guessing we just screw it out. Yeah, so we've got both adapters. Now we can screw in the smaller adapter. Yes, I think this is going to work. So we've got the smaller adapter. So now we can take one of the smaller tubes and we can insert it in there and rotate it to lock it in, and we've got a small tube on here. So is this going to work? Well, I'll pop on a nozzle that we can use to test it. We've got a little peely thing to peel off on the top. Nice and shiny. Input 5 volts 2 amps, output 6 volts 2 amps. 1200 milliamp hour battery. So if you are interested in the battery capacity, that should last quite a long time, I imagine. Let's plug in a USB cable, see what it does. Okay, so we got a light. It's flickering on my screen, but it's not. It's in real life, it's just going up. That's just my refresh rate of the camera. Here we go. I'll adjust my exposure. You can see that now, how it's flashing. It's just the last bar is going up. It seems to have some settings on here, so you can go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm guessing 3 being the most powerful, or 1 being the least powerful. So let's put it on the most powerful, and I'm guessing if you have like a thicker flux, it might require more pressure to push it out. So depending on what liquid you're using, maybe you'll need to adjust that, I don't know. So it looks like this handle is going to slot in here and go over this button, which is going to dispense it. So let me just sort that out. And these two have very different trigger mechanisms. That one's like right up there for pressing it, and this one you can press it like anywhere down the length of the tube in here. So if you want to hold it like at the bottom and press it, or you want to hold it, you know, further up the top, and you know, you could do it with your palm like that, or you could hold it down the tube and then press it there. So I don't know if this is going to be ergonomic or work well, but we can try it. I'm just going to hold it like that, I think like a pencil, and let's shoot, see how it does. You just switch it on and off, you hold that button down, and then you put your desired level. Now it should be on. Right, we're primed and it's coming out. Let me try. Oh yeah, that's working. You're not going to be able to see that. Let me try and get you under the microscope. Right, hopefully you're going to be able to see it from under the microscope here. So I'm going to press the trigger and we'll see how smoothly it comes out. See? Going to waste a lot of flux here. But yeah, that's actually working. Interesting. So I'm actually thinking that holding it this way might be ergonomic actually. Let me just try that. Yeah. So I'm interested to know, what do you think about that? Is that just something that's a bit of a gimmick, or would you actually use something like this? I like just experimenting with things, as I say, and because that one left me a bit disappointed, yeah, at least I can now use the smaller tubes on here. Now what I really wanted to use one of these for was hopefully if I'm using solder paste to reball an area, I want to be, you know, more controlled with the amount that I'm using. So I'm wondering if this would give me quite a lot of control or not. But as I say, it is quite, because it's got the battery in there, it's quite top heavy. So if you're holding it down there, yeah, I think the weight of it won't be ideal. So you are probably going to need to hold it like that and then use the trigger like this to do it. I think is probably going to be the best. So yeah, I'd probably have to get used to that and see how that works out for me. That's it for this one. I've had some fun testing out some new things and hope you enjoyed the video. Now I need to get back onto some laptops that I've been working on, so I'll see you in the next one and hopefully we'll be looking at a repair. Thanks guys.